Massive landslides crash down from the hillsides, sending rock, mud, and debris smashing into everything below. Then comes the water fast, violent, and impossible to contain. Torrents surge straight into the city, swallowing streets, bursting through neighborhoods, and tearing apart homes in seconds. In some of the most shocking scenes, entire houses are battered into ruins, walls ripped open, roofs torn away, and shattered debris thrown high into the air as floodwater and mud slam through once quiet communities. This is Henan province under siege. After relentless rainfall, Zhengzhou has been hit by a flooding emergency so severe that major roads have turned into raging rivers. Entire districts have been overwhelmed as water levels rise faster than drainage systems can handle. Underpasses disappear beneath murky currents. Intersections vanish. Vehicles are left stranded, half submerged, while terrified residents watch the water close in around them, with nowhere left to go. And the destruction does not stop at the surface. Across the city, transport infrastructure is taking brutal damage. Subway tunnels are filling with water. Underground facilities are being forced offline. Key equipment is soaked. Rail cars are left unusable. And major parts of the transit network are effectively paralyzed. For a city that depends on speed and movement, this is a full-scale shutdown. Commuters are cut off. Emergency access is slowed. The normal rhythm of urban life has collapsed. Above ground, the roads are no better. Main traffic corridors are now flooded channels of brown, fast-moving water. Bridges and access routes are under pressure. Business districts are increasingly difficult to reach. Industrial zones are being cut off. Rail services and flights are facing delays and cancellations, while logistics lines are breaking down under the weight of the storm. What was once a connected metropolitan system is now being torn apart piece by water, mud, and infrastructure failure. In the worst-hit residential areas, the scenes are devastating. Water rushes through front doors, shatters windows, and fills ground floors within minutes. Furniture, appliances, clothing, and family possessions are ripped from homes and carried off in the current.
Floodwaters.
Some buildings remain standing but gutted. Others partially collapse after foundations are undermined by the force of the flood. In landslide-prone areas, the destruction becomes even more violent. Hillsides give way. Rock burns underground. Whole sheer slopes are crushed, split open, or buried under mud and broken concrete. On the outskirts of the city, farmland is disappearing underwater. Fields are submerged. Embankments are weakening. Reservoirs are being pushed toward critical levels, adding even more pressure to water control systems already close to failure. Once flood barriers begin to give way, the water spreads rapidly into low-lying zones, creating a chain reaction of damage that is extremely difficult to stop. Warehouses, factories, and manufacturing sites are also being hit, forcing shutdowns as electricity, internet, and transport links are disrupted. Production is slowing. Supply chains are seizing up. The economic shock is growing by the hour. But beyond the infrastructure and the numbers, the human toll is impossible to ignore. Families are standing in floodwater watching their homes come apart. Residents are trying to salvage what they can document. Medicine, clothes, photographs while muddy water swirls around them. Streets that once carried traffic and commerce now echo with rescue sirens, shouted warnings, and the noise of pumps working nonstop. Entire commercial blocks sit silent, their storefronts flooded, interiors coated in sludge, merchandise ruined.
Electricity and
Emergency teams are now racing against time. Rescue units, volunteers, and heavy equipment crews are working around the clock to pump out water, clear blocked roads, reinforce weakened embankments, and evacuate people from high-risk zones. Temporary shelters are being used to support displaced residents, while authorities try to stabilize critical infrastructure before conditions worsen again. Every hour matters, because even after the rain slows, the danger does not simply disappear. Saturated ground can still collapse. Weakened structures can still fail. Flooded systems can remain hazardous long after the skies begin to clear. Now, serious questions are being asked. How did the city's defenses fail so quickly? Why were drainage systems unable to handle the volume of rain? Did rapid urban expansion leave too little space for water to escape? And in vulnerable hillside and low-lying districts, were communities exposed to risks that had been underestimated for too long. This disaster is now fueling a wider debate over infrastructure resilience, emergency planning, and whether the city was truly prepared for an event of this scale. Experts are expected to closely examine how Zhengzhou's layout, drainage capacity, flood management strategy, and development patterns all contributed to the scale of the crisis. Their findings could shape future policy, from stronger slope stabilization and upgraded stormwater networks to larger runoff storage zones and more aggressive urban flood defenses. Because what is happening here is not just a temporary weather emergency, it is a warning. A warning about how quickly modern cities can be brought to a standstill when extreme rainfall, landslides, and infrastructure overload strike all at once. Then, after hours of chaos, the sky begins to clear. Blue returns overhead. But on the ground, the scars are everywhere. Mud lines stain buildings. Debris is piled across sidewalks. Broken walls, twisted metal, and wrecked household belongings lie in heaps where homes once stood intact. Shopkeepers begin sweeping water and sludge from their entrances. Residents step carefully through puddles and wreckage, beginning the slow, painful process of cleanup. The flood may be receding, but the damage it leaves behind will not be erased quickly. What Zhengzhou faces now is more than recovery. It is reconstruction under pressure. Roads must be repaired. Transit systems must be restored. Homes must be rebuilt. Businesses must reopen. And the city must confront the reality that the next extreme storm may not be far away. Because when streets become rivers, when landslides crash into neighborhoods, and when homes are smashed apart by water and debris, the message is impossible to miss. This was not just a storm. This was a city pushed to the edge,